Hello, you dirty potters. How are you today? I have always really liked solar panels. I think they're awesome. I've always wanted my own, and the closest thing I've ever gotten to having my own solar panels is in fact 2 solar generators that I have in the garage. You see, this side of the house is the closest thing to the breaker box. So all of this has electricity. I have 4 plugs right there and 2 plugs right there, and then a magical 6th one that I can't reach up there. I'm never gonna touch that thing. Technically, all of this electricity is wired for the gate to open and close right here, the door to my garage. But on this side here where I record most of my videos, there is no electricity here. I had to find my own way of doing it. And when I called an electrician, they were like, yeah, that's gonna cost more money than you wanna pay me. And your breaker box is kinda old, it's only 100 amps, and you should probably upgrade to 200, which is also more of the money, Mr. Krabs. So when I first moved into this garage, I got myself a solar generator, and I don't think I've ever shown it to you. I have 2 little solar panels that are technically 100-watt solar panels that go into the back of this, and then this here is a solar generator. All of the things that I charge on here, including the light that I use for my YouTube videos, the camera that you're looking at me on right now that I charge the battery on, my cell phone, my pad, anything that needs electricity on this side underneath a certain amount of ampage essentially comes from this little guy right here, which I can hold very easily. Now this is an EcoFlow generator. They're not sponsoring the video. I just want to be transparent that I use EcoFlow for a lot of my stuff. But this is actually really awesome because I don't have to install a whole new plug here. I can technically just put this right here, and anything that I need to charge or put in here has the proper plug, and then boom, it's taking energy. And on a sunny day like this, I'll just put the solar panels out and it'll charge itself within like 9 hours. Now that thing is made for small appliances. It can maybe do a small blender, stuff like that. And if you go over the demand of electricity that it supplies at once, it'll essentially break down, kind of like flipping a breaker. If you try and power an AC unit on that thing, it will turn off until you know. This brings me to my second solar generator, Gerald. Gerald is large. He weighs easily about 200 pounds. He's very difficult to lift up anywhere. Gerald can actually hook up to my house. It costs about this much money, and it was cheaper when I first bought it. The only reason I bought it was because my house ran out of power for like 3 nights in a row one night while I had a fresh brand new baby girl in the house. And my dad brain kicked in and said, no, that can't happen. So I spent a good chunk of change to get this and tie it up to the house. Problem is, I never tied it up to the house. That whole infrastructure problem kind of went away, and this thing, although heavy, it's portable, so I can take it anywhere. Now at the moment, it's charging. It's taking in about 200 watts every second. It started this morning at maybe 50%, but it's a bright sunny day, and the panels have been out there for quite some time, so now it's about 80-something%. And Gerald is amazing. Even though I spent a pretty penny on him, he can hook up to my house. I take him to anime conventions because the people at anime conventions will charge you $1.50 for the table, and they'll also charge you half a buck for the electricity and the Wi-Fi for each day you're there. I warm all my water, I power a microwave, I do a bunch of stuff off of the EcoFlow generator. Even though it costs quite a bit, it came with the solar panels as a package, and it's movable. It has a wheel system, so I can just tote it wherever I want. Sometimes I take it in the car if I'm going on long trips just because I don't trust my electricity sources. That thing is portable, and that's really beneficial to an artist like me who has tables and the like. Dante, why are you telling me all of this stuff? I'm not gonna buy a huge generator, dude. It's not gonna happen. I'm telling you this because the small one cannot power a kiln. Like I told you before, that thing shuts off if something demands too much energy from it, kind of like a breaker I mentioned before. But Gerald doesn't turn off. Gerald over there can probably fire my smallest kiln. And in today's video, we're gonna find out. Hold on, I have to go actually get the kiln. Who put test tiles in there without firing it? What, think this is a shared studio? Oh, well, I was going to fire them when I came back from my trip in the Bahamas. So I just thought if no one else was gonna do it, I would do it, you know? No. Kathy, take your tiles out. This is my tester kiln. It is a skutt firebox. It has almost no room inside. I think it's like 6 by 8 inches, and I can only put test tiles in this thing. But like I said before, Gerald can fit anything that takes one of those little receptacles. And this fits in there. The only problem is that technically speaking, this kiln runs like every other kiln. It runs off of relays, so it takes a massive amount of power and then it shuts off. It's not like the elements are constantly feeding energy. It feeds it based on a timer, based on whether you put it on slow, medium, or fast. Look here, do you see the power? It's taking in about 200, maybe 250 every second. We're at 85%, and it's gonna take 3 hours to reach max while the sun's shining. Now, if I turn the kiln on, which I will do right now, see that? It jumps up to about 1500 and then it stops. You see, even though it's pulling in about 250 or so every second, the relays are coming on and off. Kilns don't take power all the time. They're not just constantly pulling power. They don't pull power, and then when it feels necessary to keep a certain ramp up, it jumps up to about 1,000 something, and then it goes back down. In today's video, I'm gonna see if I can reach a full cone 6 with a cooldown cycle while the sun is shining, strictly off of an EcoFlow solar generator, which to me will be very exciting. Now listen, I hear you. I can hear what you're saying right now. Dante, for that amount of money, why don't you just get solar panels? Well, because technically speaking, it costs like 5 times more than the amount that I paid for that thing to get real solar panels. And before you say anything, I tried to get solar panels in the past, and it turns out they told me my roof is so poor quality that I had to buy a new roof in order to mount the solar panels on top of the roof correctly. And guess how much a new roof costs? Yeah, it's about the cost of the dang solar panels. So after my bank account got sucked down like I was buying 2 full tanks of gas in this economy, I had no choice but to get one of those instead. We're gonna do it while the sun's shining because I don't wanna reach like 0% and then be like, oh no, I gotta wait till the morning to plug it in, or scramble with this hot kiln in my hands to plug it into an actual outlet. So we're gonna wait till the sun is at optimal peak in order to fire this thing, so it's sucking in energy as it's spending energy. Okay, let's turn on the generator. There he goes. In order to minimize the amount of time the kiln needs to fire, I'm going to fire it on medium instead of slow like I usually do. These kind of kilns have a problem with getting the proper amount of heat work, so usually if I fire it at cone 6 and I put a parametric cone in there, which I have done for this episode, I will usually get a perfect cone 5 out of it. I don't usually get a cone 6 if I fire it to cone 6. So generally, I fire it to cone 7 and that will give me a 6. Over time, I've kind of figured out that I can just program my own thing in there to make firing shorter, but also have the proper amount of heat work applied to my work. So on top of putting a cone 6 parametric cone in there, we're gonna use my own firing schedule, which I will put on screen for you right now. Okay, we're going. Of course, I'm not gonna watch it the entire time, but if you look really closely, you can see it's draining power and then it lets it go. My hope is that it technically takes in more energy, or about the same amount of energy, than it does suck in. At the moment, it takes about 1400 watts every time the relays turn on and off, but then it stops and it sucks in about 250 with the current sunlight. I know it's not gonna last forever, but I think if we have about 6 or 7 seconds in between the relays clicking on and off, I should be able to stay at this as long as the sun shines this brightly the entire time. Now, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but we're gonna find out in the morning if we still have power and we have a fully fired cone 6 for my tests. Okay, it is now the morning time. Let's check the kiln. The kiln itself is fine. It did complete its cycle, but I have bad news. It did complete the cycle with a little help from me. This is how much energy we have left after the entire night. It's at 17%. I would have loved to have woken up to this thing having like 5 or 10% in it and turning the camera on and being like, guys, as long as this thing is charged 100%, we can totally run all the tests we want. We just have to use the power of the sun. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. See, kilns run off of these relays. They turn the electricity on and off based on these two little, what I'm gonna call inaccurately, diodes or whatever. That sets the electricity turning on and off. Your kiln isn't calculating how much electricity to give the elements to heat up the space in the kiln. It's not like, okay, let's give it 20% electricity because it needs to reach a lower temperature. Now let's give it 80% because it needs to keep a higher temperature. The electricity just turns on and off, and it stays on based on how much electricity it needs to essentially keep or go up. This means in the first part of the video, you would see the relays pop on and off, and so you would see it take no energy while it's bringing in energy, and then you would see it take a lot of energy, and then it would stop for like 7 seconds or so. Well, this behavior stopped somewhere around 1,000 degrees. Somewhere around 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, it stopped kicking the relays on and off, and it just kept them on for longer amounts of time. So instead of going click off, it would just click, I'm staying on for a long time. And as it continued to keep this portion on instead of clicking on and off, it continued to take that same amount of energy we saw before. So it continuously took about 14 or 1,500 kilowatts of energy for longer amounts of time. This means that as it got up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit or so, it was just sucking power. It was just drinking the electricity juice. All hope drained from my body as this happened, because I quickly realized that if I did not plug in the solar energy to a real power source or outlet to charge it while it's outputting energy, I would essentially lose all my tests, and I wasn't gonna let that happen. So I woke up multiple times in the middle of the night to plug Jerry in. I finally did a little bit of math and unplugged it around 30%, 3 a.m. and went to bed knowing that the 30-minute hold I put at 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit wasn't gonna drain the battery from 30% all the way to 0, but it did drain it from 30% to 17, and that's quite a bit. So unfortunately, without an external battery or multiples of these things, I'm gonna say no. At the moment, I cannot run even my smallest kiln off of my solar power battery. Unless EcoFlow wanna hit me up and we attach 3 of these things together. And then we got it. Because realistically, these things here, these things are for emergencies. They're not for everyday use. I've just been getting really lucky on the channel and using the EcoFlow River 2 because it's very small and it charges the light that you see, this little light, that little light that we just turned on and off, that takes 0.005 kilowatts of energy. Very, very, very small amount of energy. If I left this light on all the time, it would take 20 hours for that amount of energy to die. And I'm not even fully charged. It's halfway charged. The kiln takes way more than that. Like every second. I can't even pull in the amount of energy that the kiln takes every second, because every second the solar panels are out with full good sun, it only gave me like 250 kilowatts. The kiln takes like 1,400 a second. And so realistically, it's just not feasible. At this point, you might as well dump your money into getting yourself a small set of solar panels and solar energy hooked up to your house, because that thing, Jerry over there, costs a pretty penny. And I don't want to buy 3 of those to fire the smallest kiln I have. So unfortunately, I do not think we can fire our tests off of solar energy alone without an actual full setup. So this myth is busted. I will say, however, that the kiln itself performed very adequately. Very good. Do you guys want to see the testers? Of course you want to see the testers. It's a ceramic channel. I forgot I put these in here. Look. Here's the pyrometric cone. Not a perfect cone 6, but that's pretty close. The cone 5.1 is just destroyed. We're not pulling it out of there. As you can see, I'm doing lots of tests because I just changed over my casting slip from Laguna B-Mix Cone 5 to a handmade slip. By the way, thank you very much, Jeff Campana. Your recipe was really, really good. But that means that I have a bunch of extra test styles now that I just don't want. So I kind of burned the rest of my B-Mix test styles, and they're okay. I did get a good red out of the kiln, but I cheated and used mason stains, so it's not like this was too difficult. Well, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. You know, one day I'm gonna make a video of just having solar panels. I've been saving up to get solar panels because I would like all of my kilns and my house for that matter. I truly do think solar is the way to go for the future, and although it costs more energy to produce at the moment, down the line you get way more benefits as long as the sun exists, which is a pretty good deal because once the sun doesn't exist, you're gone anyway. So thank you, Potters, for joining me for this experiment today. Remember to click all the YouTube buttons, and I will see you, Dirty Potters, next week.
Thank you for your patronage.
Seriously, if you're having trouble with your store-bought slip, sound off in the comments below because I feel crazy. But I'm very close to making an entire episode on why I'm changing my casting slip because my tests have been coming out very, very irregular, and that is the only variable that I can think of.